Welcome to another episode of High Output AI, where Elliot and Tom discuss all the tools and techniques that make AI happen.
Oh no.
Come on, mate.
Stuck.
There we are.
Spicy.
The sound of a podcast.
Yes, that is the sound of a podcast awakening from a week of slumber. How are you, mate? What's in the overly engineered Yeti stubby cooler today?
It's called Wolf of the Willows IPA. It's a West Coast IPA.
Nice.
I chatted to this guy. He just fucking loved beer. It was so good. He was like, hey man, what do you want today? I was like, I like IPAs. He's like, and then gave me like 6 different varieties of IPAs that I didn't know about. So,
What a legend.
yeah.
Very good.
He knew his stuff, and I spent lots of money at his store because he knew his stuff. So, well done to Guy at store. What do you got in yours?
I've got I don't have a stubby cooler, but I've got a Ether Blackberry Sour, which
Yum yum.
I enjoy. I've had a few times before. I think
Good.
even on the show, weirdly enough. Anyway, we've got just like an absolutely massive lineup of stuff today, so let's not waste time talking about beers and stuff.
We'll save that for our other channel.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get stuck into it. We got the usual flow. We got the news. We got the deal books, and we got a few papers to discuss this week.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's hop in. And
Let's jump into it. But firstly, thank you to all the new subscribers. They just keep coming. We're like month on month getting more and more views, more and more subscribers. So thank you. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the reviews. Just keep doing it, and we'll keep doing this. Obviously, hit us up with any feedback. Discord's open, and Twitter and Mastodons are open as well. And by open, I mean obviously our DMs. So let's jump into it. This week, OpenAI gets its own section. A few updates coming through. First off the bat, which is probably one of the biggest bits of news of the week, in my opinion, is ChatGPT and Whisper APIs are now open to play with, even more open to play with, and are now significantly cheaper, apparently. They said OpenAI said that they've reduced the cost of ChatGPT and other models by 90% since December, and they've passed this through to the developers. And they threw in a few examples there about Snap, as in Snapchat, using it, and then a couple of other companies. But yeah, it's great to see that apparently it's already cheaper, and personally I think this is a really smart move by OpenAI.
yeah, definitely. You can kind of see where they're going with it. It's probably not the maximum profit they could withdraw. And I mean, we've talked about business models around a lot of this stuff in the past. You know, that whole $20, $40 a month sort of thing for ChatGPT was probably too high, and this is probably a good price point. I think it's like 0.002 cents per token, which is pretty awesome. And, this is going to unlock a bunch of stuff. That's not to say there won't be competitors. I can imagine other platforms like AWS and Google Cloud putting out a similar service, either through a partner or on their own. But this is cool. I think you're going to see a lot of ChatGPT or GPT-based products in the next little while. The Whisper one is weird to me in a way because like Whisper was already open source. You could just download the weights. Like we did a video on it.
Yeah.
Running it as an API wouldn't be that hard on its own. Nor that expensive. Like I had a pretty run-of-the-mill average graphics card when I was doing it, and it was fine. Like, it was just me talking to it. It wasn't hours and hours of conversation. But I don't know. That one, we'll see. We'll see. I can see Whisper being used a lot more because it's pretty standard use case. But yeah.
I thought that my just general comment on this is that I think this is a really smart move by OpenAI for 2 reasons. One is that they're very well capitalized at the moment. They've got a lot of money, both real money and fake Microsoft Azure credits money. And the second thing is there's a lot of dry powder getting absolutely pumped into AI at the moment. And when that money is getting pumped in, it's for people generally building tools. There's not too many other than the big names that we already mentioned. Most of the number of deals, not the quantum of the deals, the number of the deals is on smaller use cases that are built on top of existing models. And what this does is it just makes it way easier for developers to start developing on top of OpenAI, which means using OpenAI's models, which means using Microsoft Azure. Like, just a smart move by them is they're kind of going for the developer ecosystem play here, which I think is probably where the value will accrue in creating the tools for AI rather than trying to go after a specific use case.
Yeah, I would agree. It'll be interesting to see when they first put out a bit of a revenue statement about how much this API is making them.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for that one.
Yeah. So then moving on for our OpenAI update, Reid Hoffman has stepped down from the OpenAI board, which basically leaves Sam Altman, I think, as the only founder left. Elon left in 2018 or 19 after disagreements, but Reid Hoffman, who was LinkedIn founder, wasn't he? LinkedIn.
So.
Yeah, anyway, he's now a partner. I'm not sure if he was the founder of Greylock Partners, which is a pretty massive and top-tier VC in Silicon Valley. They were an investor in OpenAI. I think he was involved with Y Combinator at some point as well. But anyway, so he's a partner at Greylock, and they have a bunch of AI investments such as Inflection and Tome. And yeah, he's now stepped down, citing potential future arising conflicts, which says to me that Greylock is probably got a lot of news about to announce or about to be deploying a lot of capital into the AI space.
Yeah, definitely a potential there. He's also on the board of Microsoft, which is an interesting one. And obviously, LinkedIn being a Microsoft product, and OpenAI and Microsoft. Who knows? Maybe there's an acquisition or a full absorption of OpenAI sometime in the future. So a lot of different ways that could go. It's an interesting one. He was one of the PayPal team at some point as well, from memory.
One of the mafia.
Yes, one of the mafia. So yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see what that signals, especially citing it as conflict of interest. There must be something interesting going on in one of the many pies in which he has pieces.
Yeah. So moving on with OpenAI, the third update and final update for the week is that I saw that they signed an agreement with Bain and Company, and they called it a Servants Alliance to bring clarity to the expanding array of potential business applications combining OpenAI's technology with our being Bain & Co., understanding of business strategy and social responsibility. The consulting companies are in it. Watch out. It's a bubble.
That's it. Guys, we hit peak AI. Who would have thought? No, I kind of get it. It's probably one of those things, though, where, and I mean, I don't know. I don't have the highest opinion of a lot of these consulting companies when it comes to actual technology innovation. It feels like one of those things where they want to consult and say that they do AI stuff, and saying that they have an alliance with OpenAI probably does well to secure them a bit of extra business. It is probably ultimately meaningless.
Yes, I would agree. There's been I'm a consultant by background. I worked for one of these consulting firms, and look, there's a lot of changes going on within the company since I've left in terms of building out their technical capabilities, so I can't speak to it fully, but it felt a bit buzzwordy when I was there. I'm sure it's a bit different now. I know people who've interviewed there and said it was a very difficult technical interview. And so, yeah, look, that might be changing, but to me, it feels like Bain probably paid money for this to be able to associate themselves with OpenAI as a bit of a land grab and being the strategic leading thought partners in the AI space. I also suspect OpenAI sees it as a channel to sell some of their services into. Like, there was a discussion about it with Coca-Cola, like how they're using AI in Coca-Cola to do something. I don't know. I got scared I got bored by the buzzwords, so I left. I quit the tab. But yeah. Anyway, I just find it interesting that like OpenAI is now so big that it's hitting these, like, I'll say boring old companies are now jumping on board looking to partner with OpenAI. So
yeah, especially given, like, I don't know, it's a stark trend. This has been talked about to death, so we're not going to go into it in detail. But, it's a long stray from their original mission of just like, hey, here's some AI for everybody. You know, we're doing it for the service of the world to be like, oh, we now partner with only one of the big consulting firms and only one of the big cloud providers, and you have to use our paid API to access these services. Like
Open AI brackets ecosystem.
Open your wallet for AI.
Did you also see, ironically, that like Sam Altman came out this week and was like, AI is going to destroy capitalism? Yeah.
Look, he is obviously a very, very intelligent man, and I have a lot of respect for him. But he has some funny ideas sometimes. I remember that like crypto thing that he was trying to do to give everybody like a verified crypto address, and you had to like scan your eyeball and all this other sort of stuff. It was odd.
I just love that he's able to take $10 billion of investment and tell everyone that it's still going to destroy capitalism, but still take money and like sign big deals with companies that are like all about capitalism. I think credit to him.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, good on him for having the balls to do it, not caving to investor pressure or whatever. But yeah, what's going on with OpenAI at the moment? They are definitely the AI darling of the space. You know, everybody refers to everything that is a text processing model as ChatGPT now.
Yeah. they've won the branding of like Uber for X and iPhone for X, and now it's ChatGPT for X. Yeah,
100%. Which, you know, will probably serve them in the short term, but as soon as they release another GPT-esque thing, they might regret that land grab. But who knows? I'm sure they're going to be laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah. Well, they already have. The next bit of news, moving on from OpenAI, is I'm really excited about this, and it didn't get much coverage, is Hugging Face and AWS have signed a partnership. Cool. AWS has entered the race. We've got Google backing Anthropic, we've got Microsoft backing OpenAI, and now AWS. And thank you, Hugging Face and AWS, for identifying it as a partnership and not investment with funny credits. But
or a strategic corporate alliance.
Yeah, AWS will be the preferred cloud providers for the Hugging Face community. This is like, it's amazing to see that all of these companies are now lining up and, you know, kind of picking their sides and which side of the battle they're going to be on. And Hugging Face, I have a lot of respect for. They've created a community and they've maintained its openness, which is inherently probably what I believe is a more lasting and resilient business model. If you can, it's harder to create, but if you can create something like that, you're going to probably end up being a little bit more resilient, a little bit more successful. And AWS has backed them. And I think we've already talked a little bit today about OpenAI doing a developer play, but like, boom, once again, this is the same thing that AWS did 10 years ago with credits for developers, right? But now they're doing it for all those young ML engineers starting out.
Yeah, look, this is, I reckon, the smart play here. OpenAI, obviously big, a lot of use cases, but Hugging Face has the community. There is nowhere else really where AI community is as big as Hugging Face. Everybody puts their models on Hugging Face. You know, even like a lot of the big, you know, Google and Meta and stuff, if they're releasing demos or even these things they call model cards, which is just a summary of the model, it's on Hugging Face.
It feels like GitHub like 10 years ago, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. Yeah. I think this is such a smart move.
Yep.
And long term, I think this is the way to win. I think
Do you think, I also think as well, like Amazon's absolutely printing cash at the moment as well from a like business point of view. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a acquisition of Hugging Face by Amazon, because Amazon has a track record as well of acquiring things. Like they own so many brands that you don't even know about and incorporating them to Amazon without the rebranding.
Yeah.
Twitch is a good example of this, where massive acquisition, they hardly touch the product other than to like make it better. They didn't try and like mash it into Bing equivalent. Like, so yeah, great move by AWS and Amazon as a whole, in my opinion. And big fan of Hugging Face. So I'm a bit biased there, though.
No, it is very cool. It is very cool. And you're absolutely right. They have done that pretty well with Twitch. Recently, I think Twitch has had some humps around their partner program, but you know, that's probably the economy more than Amazon doing anything. And I saw that the One Medical deal finally closed as well. Totally off topic to AI, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
come
we did
through.
episode 17 that took like 18 different attempts to record.
yeah. But good on them. Well, that's an interesting bit of news. I'd be interested to see what changes there.
Yeah.
Hopefully for most people, nothing except maybe some faster Hugging Face spaces, but keen. Good stuff.
Exactly. If you have any experience or notice any differences, if you're using Hugging Face pre and post this announcement, do let us know. We'd be interested to hear. Shall we move on to the Dealbook, mate?
The dollar bills. Man, there were so many deals this week that came up. I picked like a random handful of them.
You beat me to it this week.
This
is my section. Get out.
I got up early and just threw some random ones in. But
love it.
Like, my God, there's a lot of money moving around at the minute.
Yep.
And obviously, we're not going to be able to cover every single deal. I picked a few here that I thought were interesting for various reasons. But suffice to say, this is a hot space at the moment. If you put AI somehow into what you're doing, there's probably a doubling of your valuation.
Yeah, so talk us through character.ai and their chatbots.
Yeah, so this
More weird chatbots.
Yeah, more weird chatbots. This is a bit of fun. It feels like a company that's not ready to fully commercialize but wants to demonstrate capability, and they've released that as a product, which I love. Interactive product demos trump great, teaser videos and shit every day of the week in my book. Character AI, though, they raised $200 million from Andreessen Horowitz, valued at $1 billion right now. So it's all US dollars. It's, I don't know if it's fully this team, but a lot of the founders are ex-Google. They worked on Lambda, which is Google's internal chatbot generation AI that we talked about briefly being sentient, which was silly, but
Lambda. It's the underpinning for Bard, right? Or is Bard? No, Bard's separate. Sorry,
I'm not sure if Bard is separate. Lambda is their one where it's like it can train a bunch of like child chatbots. So there's a Google tech demo that I have access to where there's like a version that loves talking about dogs. So whatever you talk about, it'll just like segue to dogs. And there's another one where it'll, pretend you're dreaming and like describe weird dreamscapes and all sorts of things like that. So that sort of stuff comes out of Lambda.
I think as well that they use Lambda internally as their chatbot, like as an internal Google service.
Yeah. But yeah, so the service that they've created, character.ai, it lets you talk to real and fictional characters. So I had a couple of chats with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg on the platform, and
how they doing?
Super Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff. Yeah, good. It was silly.
How's Twitter integration going for Elon? Is he a bit stressed?
I don't know. I didn't ask him about that, to be honest. I just asked them all one question. I asked Mark Zuckerberg what he thought about MySpace, and he was surprisingly polite. But yeah, look, it's fun. Like it's fun and it's silly, and what they've done well, I think, is their website. It's not that sexy. It's not that flashy. I can't find a business model, but people can share the weird conversation setups that they've generated, and you get a little bit of sort of virality and community building from that. And it was fun. So
yeah, how'd you tweak the parameters? Did you have a go?
I just had chats with it. I didn't try and set any of them up. I just played around with it a little bit as I was looking into it. And look, I'm not going to go back there every day. This is not going to be some replica style thing where I try and like build a long-term relationship with the Mark Zuckerberg AI. But it was fun. Like it was silly fun. And you can imagine there are so we've talked about this before, video games and things like this. Like
exactly.
There's a lot of scope for silly fun, and I really do think this is a demonstration of technology more than where they're likely to end as a final business model.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if we think back to GPT-3's release, right, from OpenAI, we weren't sitting there going, we weren't sure what the business model was going to be. We didn't probably think that they were going to be land grabbing to like, and bought by Microsoft to secure cloud storage and cloud compute capacity.
Yeah.
And that probably feels like where Character.ai is at the moment. But there's some clear use cases that we can think of, and as we talked about already so many times, is the first one that comes to mind is obviously gaming. Like,
Yeah.
because the whole point of this platform is that users can create characters, craft their personalities, and set specific parameters for their own chat interaction. Like, of course, that's going to be fantastic in games when you want to create your own stories, create your own characters, create your own NPCs alongside your character as well, like your own little team. It's going to be good.
It is going to be good. I'm keen to see it. I mean, look, is it $1 billion business right now? I don't know. Like, it's definitely betting on future value and absorbing a lot of the growth in the space. But it seems cool, and it was a bit of fun. So I liked that one.
Yeah. No, I think it's really exciting to see. I was just thinking then as well, it's like, imagine if you were like a author or a director or a screenwriter, and you wanted to see how tweak for a character to see how they would react in certain things, and just like get the script perfect. Yeah, there's millions of fun little use cases for this that could come from it, and they could justify their $1 billion valuation.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep stepping through the deals and the amount of money flowing into this space. What was the next one you had on it? It was
it's a Korean startup. They raised 8.1 million USD for a AI powered customer video review tool. So this one, I think I put this in here because I thought this was a little funny in that it definitely felt like, oh yeah, definitely there's AI in what we do. So the platform, it makes a lot of sense. It's a great idea for a product. I'm really on board for the product. I'm not so convinced of the AI portion. So what it is if you're an online retailer, let's say you do e-commerce, after a customer buys your product, there's a chatbot that engages with that customer and tries to get them to do a short video review of the product, and then delivers that video review back to the store so they can put it on their store page. Makes a lot of sense. Video reviews are like the new hotness. I get it. You know? That seems cool. But it fell under the AI fundraising because the chatbot vaguely uses some AI to have that conversation of like, you bought a beige handbag. Please review beige handbag. Click here to record video for beige handbag. Thank you for your video on beige handbag.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see, like, it doesn't need to be an AI business. It's silly. And, you know, who's to say whether the end-to-end team, like, pitched as an AI business or TechCrunch in this case is just jumping on the bandwagon of, like, every deal this month must be an AI deal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it definitely felt like AI equals valuation bump.
Yeah. Imagine if you were just imagining all the poor companies that are not only not getting funding, but even when they do get funding, no news about it. Like if someone like creating tools for the creator economy, like, you know, some Substack equivalent or something like that, they busted their ass and TechCrunch won't ever cover it because it doesn't have the word AI in it. Anyway.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like there's big uncertainty about this AI stuff. And when there's a lot of uncertainty, you're going to make a lot of bets because you just can't pick what's going to come off. So we're going to see a lot of this for the next little while. Yeah. And also, as you've said a couple of times today, even, there's a lot of dry powder. There's money to be spent. These VCs, their whole business is spending this money because if they don't spend it, then the LPs get a bit, you know, itchy about, was this a good use of my money? I can throw it in the bank and get 3.5%. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. It'll be fun to see the coverage over the next little while. It certainly gives us a lot to talk about, which is always good.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to echo something that we were kind of discussing offline as well this week a little bit, which came from the All In podcast, and the idea that people were saying, oh, it's a bubble, there's so much, and like, you know, I've said that as well, like, and I can't remember which of the hosts on the All In podcast made the point, but they made the point that, yeah, well, when we were investing in search, this was some investor that was investing back into Google, like in the early 90s kind of thing. So they've seen a few of these. And they were saying that, well, when we were investing in search, we had no idea Google was going to win. We knew search was going to be big, but we just had to like throw money at stuff. And he's like, and if you threw money into Yahoo, AOL, and then list off 5 other companies, he was like, you torched your money. You just lit it on fire unless you pick Google in the search game. And that's the case here as well. So like from the outside and with perfect hindsight, it may look like an inefficient use of capital. But if we produce the next Googles, Metas, Amazons of the world, then like how much extra value have they created for the economy?
Exactly. And I mean, in my mind, there's just 2 factors that I think are critical to the success of this. And the good investors are going to be thinking this way, but I don't know if it's going to be the norm. Number 1, I think, is when you're making lots of bets, you're going to make smaller bets. Like Andreessen Horowitz can't afford to make lots of $200 million bets.
Yep.
And the other side of that is, what is the success criteria to say seed, Series A, Series B, Series C? And my worry is that less sophisticated VC firms are going to try and find technical milestones rather than product market fit milestones.
Yep.
And they're going to say, until you've demonstrated, exported weights in a cloud bucket, you can't raise a Series A, which is just total nonsense and not what a VC should be weighing in on. I think it's really important that venture capitalists, if they are saying, look, for a Series A generative AI startup, we want this sort of market validation, not this sort of technological validation, because otherwise people will be doing stuff just to tick a box on a due diligence spreadsheet that has nothing to do with the technological underpinnings of their business.
It's a fantastic point because it seems to me that everyone out there at the moment is being like, well, Stability and Open managed to get these massive valuations with essentially zero revenue. So shouldn't we be able to do that too? And it seems a little bit like that. I don't want to say investors are falling for it, but they're following that in this like land grab. They're like, shit, we missed out on OpenAI. We missed out on Stability. We missed out on Hugging Face. Like, we need to get in on this. Oh, here's this thing over here that's been operating for 6 months. And, the founder is ex-Google or the founder is ex-OpenAI.
Yeah.
But like, no, we just got to get in there. We got to get in there. Like, this could be the next thing. This could be the next thing. When in reality, it's like, no, at the end of the day, AI could be the next thing. It could be the next wave. It could be the next mobile equivalent, even though everyone said that with crypto as well. It could be the next wave in technology. And obviously you and I are pretty bullish on that as well. Otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here speaking 100%. About that. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't throw out the like what venture capital has taught us over the last 40 years in terms of product market fit.
Yeah.
And small investments early on with the option for buying yourself a cheap option now for massive upside later.
Yeah, and to me, like this small bet round that's going on right now, which is literally hundreds, if not thousands, of companies getting funded in big seed rounds, is about discovery and discovery of what product market fit is in this emerging sector. We don't know. We really don't know. You look at all these chat companies like Character AI and all the others. We don't know what long-term product market fit looks like. We know what gimmick market fit looks like, which is, hey, look at this cool thing. I can talk to Mark Zuckerberg and sass him about MySpace. But that's not product market fit. It's a different thing. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that while the money's flowing right now, it is a discovery phase for the capital allocation market to say, okay, what is going to build long-term sustainable return on investment?
Yeah, and these venture capitalists shouldn't confuse themselves with Microsoft or Google.
Yeah.
Like Google and Microsoft are playing a very different game than any of the venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. Google and Microsoft can afford to lose on their $10 billion investment if it means that they win over in another area. Yeah. Venture capitalists can't as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll give you $10 billion. You've got to spend $8 billion on my services. And if this all fucks up, I still got $8 billion worth of PR, basically.
Yeah. And if I if I don't fuck up and I've just accidentally bought a very cheap option for the next like 50 years worth, 80% of the next 50 years worth of cloud compute, then nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is a lot of firms, VC firms, that are new, and they popped out in the last 2 years when money was cheap and everybody was starting a VC firm on the weekend. And I think those with experience are going to win out here, whereas those that rode the crypto wave and those that, exist because of cheap money may write their own death certificate in jumping too quickly on this bandwagon.
I was on this venture capitalist website the other day, and I won't name it, but if you clicked on this, you could like filter their portfolio by, it said like, I think it was market was the highest level that you could filter by. Then there was industry, then there was like subsector, and then there was, size, valuation, blah, blah, blah. When you filtered on market, there was 2 ways to filter it normally, which was B2B or B2C.
Yeah.
And they'd thrown in a third way, which was crypto, which they'd clearly a hangover from 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, it's wild.
I was like, since when has crypto been at the level of B2B and B2C equivalent?
Yeah. And that is a red flag. And I think if we see the same thing where it's either a B2B business, a B2C business, or an AI business as the type of business, not the sector, not the technology or anything, that's a red flag, a massive red flag, in my opinion. Yeah.
Alrighty, speaking of big vowels, Stability AI, rumors.
Yeah.
Rumors are flying.
Article in Fortune. Look, Stability didn't comment on this, so it could all be bullshit. But allegedly, they are looking to raise another round at a $4 billion valuation, which would be a 4x growth in valuation. And their valuation was not small in 6 months. And to me, that's just bonkers. And I don't know. My question here is like, do they have the product trajectory to support this kind of growth in valuation?
Yeah. Like a $4 billion company on the public markets is a very big company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like if you're sitting in Stability shoes, of course you go out and raise a round right now. Like peak valuations, cash is liquid for this like particular thing. People are looking to be part of it. People who weren't involved in October last year are sleeping at the wheel. And also as well, you just saw OpenAI raise a little bit of money and then just go bang again with 10 billion. So if you're in Stability shoes, I forgot the name of the CEO and founder of Stability, but yep, checks out. But yeah, a lot of questions there. Like I haven't heard much development I don't think we've talked about Stability other than them getting sued by Getty Images in the last 2-3 months.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, look, they're quietly bubbling away, no doubt. And Stable Diffusion is still big and people still talk about it. But have they shown anything? Like, they haven't had anything that has popped up enough for you and I, who dig through weird esoteric parts of the AI internet, to talk about it on the show.
Yep, and if I remember back to our Stability deep dive that we did back last year when they raised that $250 million round, and they did the kind of investor community day. They had like 12 different communities that they were talking about that they were working on and building. Yeah. And I know there's like lead cycles are big on this and long on this stuff, but we haven't heard anything.
Sorry. I will correct myself there. We did talk about that health one that they launched.
True. Yeah.
But
that was last week, right?
Yeah. But it was like, it wasn't a thing. It was like a bunch of people coming together. It's not an inflection point in the company's trajectory, in my mind. Not enough to justify a 4 times valuation, if that's real.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, the company has not grown enough, but the market and the hype around the market might have grown enough to justify it.
That's true. Yeah, look, if it happens, it's not going to be... It wouldn't totally, like, blow my mind. But it's a weird one. It is a weird one. Because in many ways, to me, like 6 months ago is recent enough that these guys really marked the start of this bubble. And then to turn around and be like, oh, there's a bubble, we better raise in it, when they were part of the inflation of it, is just a very odd move, in my opinion. But who knows? You know?
If you're sitting there as the founder, right, and you're like, I'm going to have to go to market and raise in 6 to 12 months' time, now's the time. Even 12 to 18 months, like.
That is true. That is a really interesting perspective on that. And I wonder if that is a signal about how much steam there is behind this current sort of hype train. Yeah.
I would be probably making the same decisions as the founder of Stability at this point.
Yeah. Well, definitely.
If I was in their shoes, obviously.
Pay for your GPUs somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So
round us out with Google and Microsoft investing together in a company.
Yeah, so that's why I popped this one on here. There's one more weird little UK one that we'll talk about after this, but
sorry if the founders of the weird little UK one are listening.
No, it's a good business. When I say little, I mean compared to the amount of money that Typeface has just raised. So generative AI startup product. I mean, look, it's an animated GIF on a website. I haven't actually played around with the product, but it makes a ton of sense. So they were in stealth. They just raised a $65 million round. What flagged this for me is that both M12, which is Microsoft's investment arm, and Google Ventures, among others, went in on this round. So, contrary to the previous ones that we've seen, where it's a big land grab, you're going to be using one of our services, they both went in on this. So the way that Typeface works, from what I could tell, is it develops branded content. So blog posts, job posts, Instagram posts, and it can do some cool stuff. So you can give it product images, and it can use a image generation that places your product in a certain context. So this one was a picture of a bag, and it said, a young woman in a city wearing this bag, and it generated the image, and it took the actual product shot and maintained a lot of the features of the product so it looked legitimate. And then it generated a bunch of copy around that for the blog post and the Instagram ad and all that sort of stuff, which I think is really cool. I think it's such a great product.
Would you say it's a competitor to Jasper AI, or?
Look, it's definitely in the same box. I haven't seen if Jasper has this same image content in context type technology, and it's definitely a win for Typeface if they don't, because it was cool. That was the bit out of all of this that really captured my attention the most.
That's cool. I think from memory, our kind of view and takeaway of Jasper AI, not that I've looked at them since we did that episode, but they were very much one of the OG ChatGPT rappers.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the vibe that I got from these guys at Typeface was that it's very much more sort of proper brand content generation for people who give a shit about that kind of thing. Whereas the feeling I got from Jasper was, look, you want good SEO? We'll generate 6,000 articles and just throw them on your blog, because we know how the algorithms work.
Yeah, to me it was very much like blog posts and sales emails was my understanding.
Yeah. So look, I'm keen to see where they go. I know a couple of people certainly that I'll be recommending their product to, so keen for that one. It's still in sort of waitlist mode now for anybody listening who's interested in that type of product, but definitely check it out.
So did they raise 65 million, or the VAL was 65?
I'm pretty sure they raised a round of 65 million.
Holy shit for a stealth product.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. And some big names there too, Yep. $65 million, Lightspeed Ventures, Menlo Ventures, M12, and Google Ventures.
Lightspeed's in on... Are they in on Jasper or Stability? They were in on one of those. I remember them from... Yeah.
Let me have a little look, see if it comes up.
Billy Bobble. Check it out while we're moving on.
Yes. Anyway, I can't find it in the top list of most recent investments, given they made 6 trillion investments recently.
You jump in and tell us about Colisean, and I'll Billy Bob will Google it for us.
Yeah, cool. So this is another one that popped up on my radar this week. UK company Colisean, they raised £4 million for a generative AI product. Surprise, surprise. But the product here is pretty cool. It takes a text prompt and generates training videos, so company training videos, a little bit of script generation. I don't think it's generating full visual content yet because nobody's really solved that problem yet.
What do you mean?
So it's not generating full-on YouTube video style content.
Yep.
It appears to be, and look, I'll be honest, I didn't give this company as much DD as the rest of them. It appears to be generating scripts and assets and things for those training videos, which then the company can throw together, which is cool. I mean, it's a huge space. The local darling for Australia in this one is obviously Go1, who've raised a ton of money, went through YC.
M12's a backer, right, as well? Microsoft's
Yeah, I'm pretty
backer.
sure they are. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I don't know if these guys are going to be a threat. They're obviously very early in their journey, but potential acquisition target. As we
Vu,
noted
if you're
here.
listening, get on it.
Exactly. There's a couple other competitors in this space. There's one that was mentioned, a UK company, Synesthesia, which uses AI to make staff training videos. That company raised a Series B in 2021 of £50 million. They've raised a total of £50 million as of their Series B in 2021. But yeah, a new entrant. So I think we're going to see a lot more stuff like this, a lot more good ideas that, technologically maybe are easier than they ever have been.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the generative specific vertical
Yeah.
products that are coming.
Yeah.
So this is a great example, right? On the surface, this sounds like a fantastic business. Big B2B contracts focused on a task that no one really gets excited about, making training videos. Well, maybe there's a few people in the world out there that get real excited about it. But yeah, that boring for humans. No one really wants to do it. And nice B2B contracts. So well done to Glycian. We wish him the best of luck. And yeah, especially if Go1 can get involved as well. Go1 should be looking at this as well. Because imagine if you were Go1, right, and you had all the training videos for an entire company, and you had AI to be like, hey, here's a video we suggest. We've made one for you.
Looks like you're missing videos on OHS policies. You want us to make one for you?
Yep.
I think there's plenty of opportunity here.
And then as well, then you that's for the Boeings and the BHPs of the world. But imagine if you're launching a new, when we launched our startup, right? Writing FAQs and how to use the product, user guides is such a painful task that when you're a small company, you don't exactly have spare capacity for it. So as we found out, the founders end up doing it. So
yeah.
we would have paid $50 a month for that to disappear.
Definitely. So yeah, look, there's a handful of deals there. I think we covered about 5 of them of what was probably 50 in the last week in terms of new AI content, but a lot of cool stuff happening. It's
absolutely
it's a good time to have an AI podcast and talk about
all
the weird and wonderful things going on.
Our job, it's our job is made easier by the amount of news at the moment.
Oh hell yeah!
Let's do it. Let's move to the next section, into our papers. You've brought 2 and I brought 2. Let's go for it.
Woohoo! All right, let's start from the top here. So this one was just wild. Absolutely wild. I love this shit. So this is a team out of Osaka University in Japan. It's just 2 people. One person from Osaka University, one person from NICT, which is also in Japan, but I don't know what the acronym stands for. And they modified Stable Diffusion to reconstruct images based on fMRI signals. So basically, the idea is that instead of a text prompt, if you knew what the person was thinking from their fMRI, could you reconstruct an image that could kind of guess what it was? Which is just fucking insane. I love this shit.
My jaw is literally dropped.
Yeah.
I was lazy and didn't read this, so I was like, Elliot will tell me about this. Holy shit.
It's so cool. And look, let me frame this all with a caveat. The images aren't perfect. If I was thinking of a certain person, it might just display a person and it wouldn't be the exact person or whatever. Even the fact that this is even mildly possible It's amazing. It's just the coolest thing ever. You should definitely check out some of the images if you haven't already. And so this was based on an existing data set, which I love that this even exists. It's called the Natural Scenes data set, in which they took 10,000 images and they had a whole bunch of people lay in a 7 Tesla fMRI over 30 to 40 sessions and just have images flashed up and then their brain got measured. So this is like a data set that people can just request access for of one of these major
That would have been so expensive.
Horrendously expensive. But the fact that exists is amazing in its own right.
They've invented mind reading. They've actually invented mind reading.
Yeah, so people have been trying to do this for a long, long time. And I think this is really cool. There's a couple of bits in this that, from an AI technology perspective, I think are pretty smart. They used Stable Diffusion's latent diffusion model rather than the direct diffusion models that you see out of DALL-E, which means that their diffusion process took place in the sort of compressed, encoded space of the model, which, given the sparsity and the low resolution of the data from the brains, is a lot more conducive to being mapped to then image or text generation. So I think that was a really smart idea. They did a couple of cool things. The way they trained the contrastive sort of clip embedding was really cool. So they took off-the-shelf Stable Diffusion and they did a little bit of fine-tuning on the encoding step, and then this shit just works, which I think is awesome.
Well, credit to Stable for obviously creating a model that is so robust.
Yeah, 100%. And then, they did another bit of work, which I didn't go into as much detail, but is very cool. They looked at trying to map semantic parts of the image descriptions. So, dogs versus places versus pictures of people to different parts of the brain to try and understand if activity occurs differently in the brain when you talk about dogs versus buildings and things like this, which, just what a fantastic piece of work. So
does this mean as well you could theoretically reverse it at some point as well if you got enough? We know that this image this brain pattern looks like this image. Could you reverse that in a way where it's we want to investigate somebody's brain and deduce their brain back from some form of outside external signal?
Well, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, look, it's one of those things where we're taking however many millions and billions of neurons, turning it into a very low resolution signal, and then roughly correlating that with here's a picture of an aeroplane. If we wanted to say go full future tech and say remember
what did the murderer look like?
Yeah, exactly. We're miles away from that. But this is a non-trivial step in that direction, which so cool. So definitely
watch out
check this one out.
Watch out little police sketches of criminals.
Exactly.
Your jobs are jobs gonna be taken by AI. No, that's fantastic, and it feels like it's just got a bit of Japanese just a bit of Japanese culture associated with it as well, in terms of taking something that people probably wouldn't have thought of and just making it awesome.
Yeah, 100%. So, one of the coolest things I've seen recently. It got accepted to CVPR, big conference for 2023. So, congrats to the two authors. What a fantastic piece of work. Really exciting space. Obviously, my background academically was in MRI imaging, so this ticks a lot of my boxes, and really keen to see what the team does with this.
Should we try and get him on the show?
We could try.
Do you have the contact details?
I do not, but we could dig in and see if there's anything useful, because I think it's awesome.
Next one.
The next
Undetectable
one.
backdoors.
Yeah, so this one, I think I read this last year, but it popped up in my feed again, and I gave it a second read, which I think was worth doing. So it's quite a long paper. It's a lot more academic and less visual than the previous one. But it was looking at how a malicious trainer, so somebody taking your model code, let's say you write some code and you're like, man, I don't have any GPUs. I'm going to outsource the training of this to somebody else. Somebody could maliciously modify the training process without modifying the code and with allowing the original data set through in such a way that that model could then have any future inputs slightly modified in a secret way known only to the person who did the training that would change the output in a predictable way.
Wowzers.
Yeah, so this was used on classification. So you can imagine, like, should this person be approved for a loan? It's like, sick. I trained this model. I know the secret things to put in there that will make it always say yes. And these are like tiny, imperceptible modifications. And a lot of this work is like how this type of modification would be completely undetectable to the person who received the model on the other side.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, number one, a lot of bad things could happen here, but you know, it's a risk for anybody not training these AIs themselves. Now, service level agreements and plenty of other things protective against this in other ways, but this is a real attack vector on AI models, which is kind of crazy.
How did they plant those undetectable backdoors?
So at the highest possible level, they have a secret password, and that secret password can be used to generate modifications to, let's say, an input image that imperceptibly change it. But during training, we said, okay, this is a dog, and it should be correctly classified as a dog. Dog plus magic noise should always be classified as a cat. And they modify the training data sort of in real time and then just inject additional training samples into the corpus.
So the mechanics there is that they modify the training data slightly.
Yeah.
And process.
But they do it, they do it sort of live and on their end in a way that, you know, because you're outsourcing the training, you don't really have any access to understand that this happened.
Yep.
Which, I mean, this was a theoretical paper, so, you know, it wasn't demonstrating any real use cases of this, but you can imagine, you know, I guess non-nefarious uses of this. So things like Stability or ChatGPT putting this in their system as almost a signature so that if I managed to break into Stability and stole all their weights and stole all their models and was using it for my own startup and said, no, I trained this myself, definitely, Stability could utter the magic words and say, okay, I'm going to put this image in and I'm going to use my secret key. And if the output of your model is the word Stability AI, I know you've stolen this shit from me.
Yep.
So I think we'll start to see that, and it makes a lot of sense.
And I think these are the some really important questions that are getting overlooked in this space, in the AI safety space, because everyone is very, very focused on it not murdering us all.
Yeah.
Or transcending and murdering us all to serve the Bing users, or whatever Sydney said. But this stuff as well is probably the more realistic. Obviously, it's less catastrophic than the AI murdering us all, but this is the stuff that is probably more likely to happen in a nefarious manner to us, and we need protection against from more likely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, you could imagine a bad actor in, you know, some futuristic moon colony, to not throw any countries under the bus, is like, yeah, we got GPUs galore, we'll do your training. And they just train it such that, you know, if they want to, they can fuck with the outputs.
Yeah.
And for banking and any sort of critical infrastructure, you know, if there's a magic word that you can utter that shuts down the energy grid because power is routed through an AI model, that's wild.
Yep. Yeah. And it'll just, as I think we talked about earlier this year on the prediction episode, the idea of sovereign compute and sovereign models. So you own all this, and this is the stuff that will force that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what's next? A couple of meta papers.
Yeah, I came across this 2 from Meta this week.
Mm-hmm.
One was called Lever. I didn't do too much deep diving into them. I just wanted to bring them up, and we can go into more detail next week if we like them. But 2 models. One called Lever, which is learning to verify language to code generation with execution. Love that acronym. And then another one called Minotaur, which was about querying long form videos. I wanted to bring it up for 2 reasons. One is it was good to see this is 2 weeks in a row we're talking about Meta, and it's 3 kind of big papers. They had Llama last week we were talking about, and then this again. And I just was thinking this week about Meta, and I'm like, they're so well positioned to be able to have fantastic use cases for AI, even if it's not directly interacting with it, but for their users and stuff like that. And I think they could be a really strong AI company, and it's I'm kind of supporting them to be. I'm rooting for them to be a strong AI company. So anyway, I'm talking about it. So Lever, I'll get that over and done with quick because I didn't do too much digging on this. But the idea here was that it was a simple approach to improve the language to code generation. And they did it by learning to verify generated programs with their kind of like execution results. So they looked at the program and then the results and wanted to see like what my understanding is kind of like see what the most effective way to like what most effective prompt would be based off not only frequency of usage, but the effectiveness of it, which is kind of cool.
I think this is actually a really, really good one and a really smart move because, there's plenty of examples of ChatGPT just sort of like hallucinating stuff. So I've got this article that I saw 23rd of February. It's from a company called OpenCage, and they do a geocoding API. So you can convert coordinates to and from places, basically.
Yep.
And they had to put this article up that says, please do not believe ChatGPT. We do not offer a phone number lookup service because ChatGPT in its infinite wisdom, when you ask it to generate a reverse phone number lookup script, it writes some code that calls an API that doesn't exist to take a phone number and return the location of where that phone number is. And this company has been flooded with complaints of users who signed up, tried to run this code that ChatGPT produced, and then complained because the API was broken, even though they never did this in the first place. So writing code, running it, and verifying that it's not just hallucinated bullshit seems like a very obvious and very helpful step in the right direction. You can then also imagine that you could modify your prompt to say, let's say we wanted to generate an algorithm to sort a bunch of things. You could say, generate the fastest algorithm to sort a list of latitudes and longitudes that meet some certain criteria. And then it would not have to memorize the fastest, but it could generate a bunch of candidates and sort them by their effectiveness.
Yeah, I think this is where it's like, you could provide really, really good nuance for the developers. I'm just imagining there's an assistant at play with the developers here of like helping them understand like what would be really good in that specific scenario with the word, with that little adjective, just putting that little adjective in front, like fastest sort function, most comprehensive sort function, whatever it is, using that alongside it rather than just like give me a sort function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like more than just autocomplete. This is like autocomplete with problem solving with like slidable parameters.
Yeah. No, I like that. It's smart.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. The next one, which I went further in because it really captured my attention. It's called Minotaur, and this hands down gets the award for like the funniest acronym attempt in history. They they took like the first letter of the first word, the third letter of the second word, the fifth letter of the fourth word. You know what I mean? Like, and to spell out Minotaur. Yeah. So someone like clearly ran this through some AI to be like, what acronyms can I create from all these words?
Yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, we'll get into it. But basically, they queries long form videos, and it's kind of asked it, what is the answer? When did it happen and where did it happen? And there's kind of like two differences in this. One is that like they managed to teach it multiple things. Previously in querying video, it seems that a lot of it was like very use case specific. So find the human face in the video. And then the second difference is that most of querying videos is done on short form things, not long form. So it's not able to deal with like the massive amounts of information that a long form video will give you. And they gave what I think is like amazing, and I was actually surprised, like, not to be reading this from Google, but it seems to me that their application that what it originally spawned this for them wasn't something you think would come from social media, like a social media company, but around the virtual assistant world. So imagining that you had input a lot of data from your life and helping you around with your life. So it used examples of helping someone to find keys, or if they put their keys somewhere. Like, obviously that requires a huge amount of time and a huge amount of video associated with remembering where you put your keys, because you could have lost them in the morning. Another one was how much time someone spent doing a task across an entire week, i.e. reading. Now, obviously, it's all a bit weird to think about you being videoed enough that you can have your keys being found and find out how much time you're reading. But the point was that this isn't just like, a 3-minute video or a TikTok and find like the point that the person claps their hands. This is like very multiple tasks over a huge amount of time. And being able to pinpoint that with like very specific interactions accuracy is very, very cool. Obviously, it has some issues around citizen surveillance and things like that, so it could be a bit issue, especially if we're getting spied on by satellites and we've got the AI cops always watching the video and looking for you to...
I mean,
but
the thing is, like...
There's also going to be... For every one... This is the thing, is like for every wonderful use case that can come out of this, there's going to be 10 nefarious ones as well, and we just need to trust the company and trust the governments that protect us to develop that the right way.
Yeah, and also not be under the delusion that like CCTV is already everywhere, and if people want to look through it, they can. Like, this makes their job easier. It's not giving them secret video information that wasn't already being collected, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's cool though. Like, I can definitely see that being useful in the... I mean, think about this show. If you wanted to be like, oh, can you find the bit where they talked about Jasper? Like, that would be handy.
And imagine putting this, like, I cannot believe for a second that YouTube wouldn't implement something like this, or isn't developing something like this.
Funnily enough, I think there is somewhat of a Black Mirror episode about this where like their whole lives are recorded and like people get into arguments being like, oh, you said we should do this. And they're like, no, I didn't. And they're like, rewind. Let's go and find out exactly what you said, which I can see happening here a lot more.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
I like it.
Well, mate, we've hit the hour.
We have.
Hit all the content.
We did. We blazed through that. That was good stuff.
Well, mate, an hour with you always just disappears.
Oh,
I just have so much fun.
It is fun. I love doing this, and to those listening, I hope you're having fun too. This has been good. 34 episodes in, and many more to go. So we're having a great time.
In person next week?
Potentially, yeah. I do an event on Saturday night, but if we can find the time,
Sunday afternoon.
We
can do Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a
Should we keep organising our lives in front of all our listeners too?
Yeah. Here's a specific latitude and longitude that we'll be at, and please don't come murder us. Yeah. No, good stuff, everyone. Thank you all for listening. Subscribe, share with your friends, do all that sort of stuff. You know what I'm going to say. But until next time, it's always a pleasure, mate, and I will see you in person next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode. If you're liking this content, make sure you subscribe and like so we keep on going. And if you have any questions, make sure you hit us up on Twitter, join our Discord, or leave them in the comments below. Thanks again.